Oh my God, we are back for yet another edition of Grindhouse Chic. As always, I am Robert Schneider, and I am joined by Matt Armstrong and Brian Baldwin. And tonight, we are going to be discussing the 2009 remake, reimagining Friday the 13th. But before we get to that, I watched a movie on Friday night that blew me away. And I wish I could go back in time and tell 13-year-old Robert about it. But then I would have to explain streaming, and he would probably rip on me for still collecting physical media when almost every movie is available in some form online. And I am talking about Deadstream, a Shudder exclusive, which I just thought was a hoot. Have either of you seen it?
I haven't, no.
This is the one where it's the guy. He's got a YouTube channel, kind of a deal.
Yep, he's a YouTube and whatever their version of Twitch was, and
Yeah,
he did something. He did something bad and decided to make it up by going into a haunted house and spending the night. And let's just say it doesn't go well for him.
yeah. So I actually need to finish it. I watched about half of it, I believe, and then it was time for me to go to bed. Now, I'll be honest. I watched it based on a recommendation. Okay.
So did
So
I.
earlier on this year, there was a film that came out by Rob Savage. Okay. Now he's the guy who directed Host, that came out during the pandemic, where the girls were on a Zoom call and they were performing a seance. If you have not seen Host, I highly fucking recommend it. It is a fantastic movie. It's just at an hour time. And don't confuse it with the two other films that are called Host of the Host and all that. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because his next movie that just came out earlier this year is called Dash Cam. Okay? Have you guys seen Dash Cam?
I have not. I heard it's terrible.
Okay. Deadstream is what I think Dash Cam should have been. Now Dash Cam itself, I'll just say this super quick. If you excluded one thing from Dash Cam, just one thing, but it's a really big fucking thing, and that is your main lead actress. If you take her out of the equation, it's fucking great. That's all I'll say. I want everyone to form their own opinion. There are people who love it. I was just sitting there the whole time like, yeah, fucking kill her.
I've seen it on a lot of worst horror lists for the year or last year.
Oh my God. Yeah, I could go on and on, but I won't do that.
But what I like best about Deadstream, and Matt, I don't want to spoil it for you, but the character is kind of like Justin Long's character in Barbarian, where he did something really bad, even though you don't find out what it is until I think the end of the second act or the beginning of the third act, but you want to like him. And I think that's what makes this movie work. And plus how the people in the chat have become really important to the story. It is my pick of the week.
It's on Shudder, you said?
It's a Shudder original.
Okay.
It's
I need to finish it. I really do.
What else have you guys watched this week?
I just watched Halloween Ends today. Finally got around to that. I still need to stew on it. There's part of me that really appreciates, and this is spoiler free, part of me really appreciates them kind of taking a little bit of a different angle in here. I just don't know if I liked it necessarily, liked the decisions that they made. I can say this easily though. I did not hate it the way that everyone, including my wife, seems to have hated it. I looked at her as soon as it was over. I was like, I kind of liked it. I think I was like, I don't love it, and I need to think about it. And she's like, oh God, okay. She's like, I thought it fucking sucks.
I walked out of the theater during Halloween 2018, I don't think I would have watched Halloween 2020 or Halloween Kills if it wasn't on Peacock, and this one's on Peacock, and I haven't even bothered to watch it.
That's how I did it. Was on Peacock. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just. I guess I no longer care about Michael Myers. The character has been ruined enough over the past 40 years where I just don't care. And the fact that this is in the same continuity, Michael should be beatable by this point.
I would recommend you watch it.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch it before Halloween ends. Yeah, see what I did?
Oh,
there?
I'm sorry.
I got this.
Matt, hit that button.
Have you watched anything else?
We took a little mini vacation this weekend, so I haven't watched much over the last 2 or 3 days. I started watching. Oh God, what's the latest visual vengeance? Moonchild.
Yeah,
I think. I still need to finish that. Extremely interesting, though. I think I'm going to do that after we get off the call tonight. It is literally Star Wars meets a fucking werewolf movie, and I was having the time of my life with it until I started dozing off. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
What about you, Matt?
I watched a couple. I think the biggest one I probably watched was Midsommar for the first time finally.
Which version did you watch?
I don't think it was the director's cut, so theatrical.
You fucked yourself on that.
Yeah. One. Yeah, I didn't have it, and I saw this was on I think HBO, I think one of the streaming services, so watched it. I thought it was just okay.
Is the A24 release the only way you can see the extended cut?
I think you can buy it on Apple iTunes, but
okay.
Yeah,
because I bought the Blu-ray when it first came out, and then A24 announced that. I don't know if you guys remember, but like that was like a hot ticket item at the moment. If you didn't jump on it as it dropped, it was going for like $300-400.
Yeah, and it's been in print ever since.
Yeah. I just haven't picked it up.
I didn't even know about it until people on YouTube started talking about it. I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was really good.
I think the director's cut, even though it's longer, is a much better film.
Yeah, I do want to check that out. I held this one off for so long because I thought Hereditary was so good, and I felt like I wasn't going to be able to enjoy this one as much because I was just going to compare it to that. But I mean, there was some cool stuff in it, but I think overall, I think I ended up just comparing it to Hereditary.
Ari Aster had a fucked up childhood.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Oh man.
Other than that, I watched Ticks.
I still need to, no, I've seen that. I've seen that one.
Pretty fun time. Made my wife watch that. What else did I watch? I watched one that you had talked about, I think 2 weeks ago, Robert. It made me want to revisit it again. Was Bubba Hotep.
Okay.
I forgot that he talks about his pecker for like 20 minutes straight in the beginning of the movie.
What else would Elvis talk about?
But that. Yeah, that's about it. Some other random ones, but they weren't very good.
Yesterday, I completed my 31 films of the year.
Nice.
And I'm going to go for 40. So I have 34 now, but last night I watched 2 films that were really, really fun. I watched La Casa 4, otherwise known as Witchery, starring David Hasselhoff and Linda Blair, which is just bonkers. Actually, on Thursday night, I watched Siren and had a blast with that one. It was based on the first story from the first VHS movie with the girl going, I like you, I like you.
Oh, okay.
And I remember picking up years ago, I think at a Walmart or Target or Best Buy in the bargain bin for like $5 and never opened it until Thursday. And it was a made for chiller movie, but it was so much fun. It was a lot of fun. It told a very different story than the short one in the first VHS.
Is it a found footage film or
No, they got rid of that all. It's a regular narrative.
okay?
It's really fucked up and set in Florida.
Okay. I'll have to watch that. I love that segment, man. That's a really good. Okay.
And then last night I watched Flesh Eater.
Yeah.
Which might now be my favorite Vinegar Syndrome release of 2022.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the
I didn't
like 4K.
hate it. I didn't hate it, but yeah. Okay.
It was so badly acted, so badly directed, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to talk about it at some point after Steckvember.
Okay.
Oh yeah, is that a
Steckvember, we have one more week of...
one more, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, before we head to Friday the 13th, 2009, let's talk about our favorite remakes. Not including Dawn of the Dead. Not including Dawn of the Dead 2004, because that would be on all of our lists.
I'm just kidding.
Brian, why don't you go first with your first pick?
Okay. These are in no particular order, by the way. I would have had too hard of a time doing that. Okay, I'll go ahead and get this one out of the way. Although I know the two of you somewhat agree with me, this is also one that, yeah. 2007, Rob Zombie's Halloween.
That is
I
on
will
my
always
list as
defend
well.
that film. I will always defend it. I absolutely love it. And there's, what is there to say about that hasn't been said 1,000 times from a bunch of other fat assholes like us on YouTube? But I really do. I think it's great. It does not bother me to see Michael Myers kind of have a backstory, see this terrible upbringing. I think if you are either a fan of Rob Zombie's types of characters or you are not, excluding Munsters, still haven't watched it, have no opinion. But he does this whole trashy hillbilly thing, and I think he fucking does it very well. I love his placement of a lot of 70s music and shit like that. It's just, I think he's a master at his craft. I think he does a great job of making you feel for Michael. And then it doesn't really bother you to turn to like, oh God, he's a terrible person, And of course, his movies always kind of remind me of like Stephen King books, where it's like, yeah, here's all the terrible stuff that's happened, but there's also like all this like other little terrible shit that's sprinkled all throughout with your other characters and stuff, I think it's a fantastic movie. And now that we have, again, so many entries in Halloween, I think it is a breath of fresh air when it comes to that franchise.
I agree. It was on my list, but so I can have 5, I'm going to bring one of my other contenders into it. Unless we all have the same stuff, and then I won't. But what I liked about it is it came off the dreadful 4, 5, and 6, where Michael was in the stupid cult. I'm sorry, in H2O Halloween Resurrection, and none of that made sense. I like the fact that Michael was a psychopath and that he was abused. I don't like the fact that he was abused, but I like that his backstory was set in realism.
No kink shaming, man.
What I don't understand is how they let him get so huge in the mental hospital. Were they feeding him roids? Were they letting him lift? Because
Like,
Michael didn't look like a kid who was working out.
Yeah. Sorry, Michael, we were out of stuffed dogs, but it's like harkening back to an older episode. Here's Danny Trejo in his workout video.
No, Halloween, the Rob Zombie Halloween is a great film.
Absolutely.
Right, Matt, what is your first pick?
I had that one as well, so I've got a couple backups, so I'll kind of throw them on here. But yeah, kind of the same thing you're saying about that one. I like that it actually had like a backstory and um, let you kind of see kind of what led Michael up to be that way. And I feel like even though, obviously, yeah, Michael's a shitty person, but at the same time you kind of like feel for him in a way, I guess.
Mhm.
Well,
But
you feel for him to a point until he
yeah,
starts saying all the dreadful things
yeah, right,
that he
right.
was doing. Um, One note that I do want to make of the remake is
Hmm.
that one of the girls played a relative of his in 4, 5, or 6. I can't remember, Danielle, whatever her last name is. She was also in Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Hmm.
All right.
I haven't seen
Okay.
those ones in so long.
Same here. I always do 1 through 3 like pretty regularly. I haven't watched past 3 in quite some time.
Yeah, you bought the 4Ks out.
I've 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, you didn't buy the new box set?
Mm.
Okay.
I will eventually get them all. I'm just not in a rush to get them, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right, Matt, what is your next pick?
So my first one, I'll go with 1988, The Blob. Um,
Ooh.
I remember my dad used to always watch like old sci-fi movies, and I remember seeing that one. And back then, I kind of thought like, watching that one from the 50s or 60s, kind of just like thought it was like a cool, kind of like funny sci-fi movie. But I remember when this remake came out and we watched it, and it was like a full-on horror movie, and lots of good like creepy body effects stuff. Remember there was one scene where the blob like comes out of the kitchen sink and like sucks someone down into the drain, and like images like that from this movie like really stuck with me. So it just, I like the idea of just like, this gelatinous formless thing just kind of coming after you and there's no escape, and it can either swallow you up and you never see it again, or it can pull you down into a drain. And just clever kills.
The original had Steve McQueen. The
Hmm.
remake had Johnny Drama. I've never seen the remake of it.
It's good to check it out.
Movies like The Blob freak me out.
Yeah, it is. It's creepy.
Yeah, I will have to check it out. All right,
Yeah.
my first pick. So this one's kind of hard for me because I love the original. The original holds a special place in my heart, but I think I like the remake more. And I'm talking about 2011's Fright Night.
Nice.
I just think there's more tension in it than the original. Um, Colin Farrell plays a much better vampire than Chris Sarandon. Um, I think the main actor, whose name I can't remember, who was in Star Trek movies, um, was better than William Ragsdale. I thought the girl was much better than Amanda Bierce from the original, and I thought McLovin was better than the original Evil Ed. And there was something I think more interesting about David Tennant's version of Peter Vincent than Roddy McDowall. I mean, the original is great. It's much like Summer of '84. What happens if a vampire moves next door to you? And I like the Chris Angel approach more than the local TV horror host, which I guess by 2011 doesn't really exist anymore.
Hmm.
And Colin Farrell just played a much more badass vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was pretty excited when this one came out, and um I really liked the main guy in it. I can't think of his name. He
Oh,
passed away.
yeah.
Anton.
Anton Yelchin.
Yeah. Um
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
thought he was
I've
really
never
good.
seen this one, by the way. So, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I I don't remember, like, I refused to see it when it came out theatrically, but I was living in Pittsburgh at the time and I bought it at a place called Ides, which was a comic store, record store, video store, and bookstore. And The guy behind the counter was like, "You need to see this movie," and he basically bullied me to spending the $45 on the 3D version of it, which I think is ridiculous. That 3D Blu-ray never took off.
Yeah.
But no, it's a phenomenal film.
Nice.
Right.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. Agreed.
Ryan, what is your next pick?
Well, Matt mentioned one of mine, The Blob. That was also on my list. So kudos for dropping that. There's not anything I can say to add to what you already mentioned, Matt. I think it's a phenomenal film. It's extremely fun. I mean, I feel like it's even a little bit unfair to compare it to the original because there's so much more going on in the remake, and it's just a great. I mean, that to me, when I specifically think of 80s horror movies, is one of the first ones that pops into my mind. I just think it's everything that you want out of those films. But it is really well acted, in my opinion. I will add that. There's not a whole lot of corniness necessarily to the movie. You know what I mean? The kills are great. The practical effects are fantastic. It's one of the top tier movies from that era, I believe. So with that being said, I only had a couple on here that I left as backups in case this happened. I'm going to save one in case this happens again because I think it could turn into a little bit of a conversation itself. So what I'll do is I will replace the Blob with one that I actually spoke about last week, which was Last House on the Left, 2009. Just to sum up again, I just think it's a great remake. It's brutal. There are moments that are very difficult to watch, very much like the original. I just kind of like the way they ramp it up at the end a little bit with adding some more gore and stuff like that to it, and a lot of blood and just a terrifying kind of claustrophobic scenario there at the end.
Don't remake Wes Craven.
I'm sorry. I thought it was a good remake, man.
Yeah, what movie was that we were talking about that?
I don't remember. I don't remember. Last week was 7 long days ago.
Truth. Yeah. What's your name again? I'm sorry, guys.
John Frankenheimer.
Ooh, I like it. Hell yeah. That should be your stage name moving forward.
Yeah, my porn name. Or no, that would be John Frankenhammer. All right. So hold on. I can't get past the remake of Last House on the Left. The original had David Hess. The remake did not.
Well, like I said, if you guys recall, and I know this is a totally different episode, I just didn't want to rehash everything. At first, I actually, held a point of view that the remake I actually liked more. I've since changed my mind, but again, it really just depends on the day. I feel like I can have a good argument for either one. I just think it's definitely for this conversation as far as a 5 favorite remakes. I think it's a very good mention. I think that's a good one to drop in there.
Cool. I'll have to revisit it.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, what is your next pick?
My next pick, I will go with, I think the one that I kind of brought up last week too. I'm going to go with the Evil Dead remake. I think the thing that I just really liked about it was that it was finally like a horror movie. It was actually like a scary movie this time, and don't even think I was born yet when the original was in theaters. So to see this movie like in a theater, like a good scary movie in the theater, was a good experience. Really liked the gore, just blood everywhere. And see Robert's convulsing.
All right, I'll wait till you're done.
I don't know if I have more to say about it. I thought that it was I don't know, it was almost shot for shot, perhaps. So maybe
it wasn't shot for shot. It was a different story.
Yeah. Well, I think the like iconic parts were pretty shot for shot.
So Did they establish anywhere in the remake that it was the same cabin in the woods that Ash went to?
Huh.
Um, I don't know. Does it have to be?
Kind of. Kind of. It just doesn't make sense. And they kind of alluded that these films take place in the same universe at the end of it when you heard Bruce Campbell's voice at the end of it. But I don't expect.
Well,
I'm not sure.
the book of the dead was there, so it's got to be the same one.
I
Sorry,
don't
the
know.
Necronomicon.
I just did not. I thought Cabin in the Woods was a much fresher retelling of Evil Dead than Evil Dead was.
Oh, now hold the phone.
Cabin in the Woods was good.
Cabin in the Woods is good. Ooh. I'm not gonna go to like. Okay, Cabin in the Woods I think is a respectable film for sure. I would definitely say that Evil Dead is a far superior film in my opinion. The remake.
Jane Levy is no Bruce Campbell.
Mm.
I'm sorry. I just didn't care about her as much as I did about Ash and his cohorts in the first film and technically the second film. But I just didn't care. The fact is it felt too serious compared to the original.
Yeah.
Where
Okay, I can take that as a complaint. I will take that as a legit complaint. Sure.
and the original was a scary movie. Now I didn't see it until in the theater until many years after it came out, but it was still a scary movie. This one tried so hard to be a horror film that it became a boring film.
It was just different strokes for different folks is all I could say for that. That's all reasonable stuff to mention for sure. I guess I just see see it a little bit differently. I mean, I appreciated what Matt just said there a minute ago, like the ramp up in fucking blood and just, I really love to see that. I liked kind of seeing a more serious film overall and kind of trying to give some backstory to our main lead. I didn't really have any issues with the acting in it. I mean, it's pretty typical, I think, for the type of film that it was, or that it is, rather. You have the exact. I actually mentioned to one of my coworkers who's really into this stuff as well that we were going to be having this conversation, and I asked him, something for you to chew on throughout the day, and he actually did. He said that the Evil Dead remake he despises it like with every bone in his body. He's like, I fucking hate that movie. So I get it. I do. I just happen to lean on the other side of the fence.
And that is okay.
It is okay. I love you.
I'm not taking it off my list.
Well, you should. My next one is from 2012. It's a remake of a William Lustig movie. I'm going to mispronounce the guy's name who directed it. Frank Calhoun. And it stars Elijah Wood. It's Maniac.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, great drop.
Elijah Wood is almost as creepy as Joe Spinell, but in a very, very different way. While Spinell was greasy, Elijah Wood was charming, and in some ways a little more frightening.
Yeah.
100%. And I love in that film, and I'm sure you have a lot more to say, so I won't take long on this, but they have, for those who are watching that have seen it, there's a very different kind of unique style to the way that one is shot, where you're mostly from Elijah Wood's perspective the whole time. When I first put it on, I was a little thrown off by it. I'm not going to lie, but the more that the movie progressed, I was like, okay, this is a pretty decent artistic choice that number one doesn't take me out of the film, and number two actually sometimes does the complete opposite, and I think it helps you emerge into the mind of this psychopath, you know. Um, so I guess I'll just sum up. It's not too artsy fartsy, but I definitely would say it's artsy. I don't know. It's artsy without the fartsy.
The original was a product of its time. It was sleazy New York. This one wasn't. It felt like a classier movie. It kind of felt like what American, like a more, God, I'm gonna hate myself today. It kind of felt like American Psycho in a way, but where we're seeing the character break down as the movie continues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I really don't have much more to say about it. I haven't, I was looking for my copy over the weekend, and I'm still not sure which box it's in.
I feel like he needs to be in more horror roles.
I
Elijah Wood.
I don't think he cares anymore about what.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he took the Lord of the Rings money and is now just making whatever he feels like making, living in Austin, Texas, and talking about going and making whatever he wants to make. He's doing what Clooney did after Batman and Robin.
Yeah, he's always been a huge horror fan. I don't know if you guys have seen oh God, I can't remember what late night show he was on. This is a long time ago, by the way.
They use some of that in that Florida documentary where he talks about Tim
Oh, do they
Ritter.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Which makes me
That's
question him for loving Tim Ritter
Oh.
movies.
Oh man, Tim Ritter's the man. Super nice guy too. I've just hit him up on his personal Facebook Messenger, like, hey, I can't find this copy of your movie, and he's like, okay,
we should try to get him as a guest on the show. Brian, reach out to him.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. Well, I did have a question for you guys.
I'll play nice. I'll play nice.
I don't think he would really care, honestly. I mean, but anyway, but yeah, you should play nice. Was Elijah Wood? Did he have something to do with the release of the Greasy Strangler, which I have never seen, by the way?
First of all, you need to see it. Second of all, I have no idea.
Okay.
The Greasy Strangler.
The Greasy Strangler.
I feel like he has like a crew of people or something. I clearly need to do more research on this, but I'm pretty sure that he has a company that helps put some of these films out. So.
Yeah, I mean, originally the Greasy Strangler came out as a burn-on-demand Blu-ray, and then someone else released a really nice edition of it, and I didn't pick either one up because seeing it once was enough. Yet I will buy Serbian film again when it comes out in 4K.
4K, baby.
Because I'm a masochist. All right, Brian, what is your next pick?
Is it not Matt's turn? Am I getting confused?
No, I just did Maniac. So it's your turn.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's see. So I've done. God, I'm so old school. Me and my pen. Look at me, fucking vintage.
I'm doing the same thing.
Are you really? Nice. Cool. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna go with 1986, David Cronenberg, The Fly.
I will tell you, I did not put that on my list because I knew someone was going to put it on their list.
Yeah, that's on mine too.
Okay, that was one I actually had. I was like, it's probably on everybody's, but yeah, absolutely great film. I mean, if anyone watching is not familiar with David Cronenberg, I mean, you can really, I think, personally start anywhere that you want, but this is a really good one. You're going to have the familiar face of Jeff Goldblum, ripped as shit, by the way, doing pull-ups in there. I mean, for you ladies or men who are, into Jeff Goldblum, he is one sexy man. I adore it. I think the film is actually really creepy. Fair to mention, if no one has seen it, it is sci-fi horror. The practical effects are just absolutely fucking amazing. And yeah, I think most people know about The Fly, but yeah.
It's also one of the few remakes that surpasses the original. I mean, first of all, it's not hard. The original Fly is a 1950s B grade sci-fi horror movie where the costume looks ridiculous.
Right.
But and Cronenberg made it frightening.
It's a nasty movie.
Yeah.
You know, like the effects. I mean, it's still, you know, this day even, I'm just like, oh god, that looks so gross.
Mhm.
I was going to watch it today, but then I realized this afternoon that if I put my VPN on and register for BBC iPlayer, I can watch the Doctor Who finale.
Nice.
There you
And
go.
of course, it was lagging, and I kept on getting phone calls, so it should have taken 90 minutes to nearly 3 hours for me to watch. But it was worth it because it was really good. But no, I was going to actually crack open my Fly box set for the first time today.
Mm.
Yeah.
Keep
You know,
holding
I've
off
never-
on that because I haven't seen any of the sequels.
It's worth it for the first and second Fly movie and the Cronenberg one, which I never owned on Blu-ray before. The sequel to it with Eric Stoltz is not a good movie, and Shout Factory should be ashamed for releasing it and reminding us that it exists. Sorry.
So there's only one proper sequel to Cronenberg's.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
All right, Matt, what is your next pick?
I was gonna say I have never seen a single episode of Doctor Who. Is that a good show?
Yeah, you need to start from the beginning.
God, okay, I'm gonna forewarn
like-
you, Matt. My
There are like
wife
40
is a Doctor.
seasons.
Yes.
First
My
of all,
wife is a fanatic, and she was like, "Well, we could start here. We could start here." And I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, "You just watch it by yourself."
you know, here's the thing. When the upcoming 60th anniversary season starts next year, usually when a new doctor comes in, it's a fresh start and it basically becomes a new program.
Hmm.
This one doesn't. This one, everything in the end of during the regeneration, everything changes. So, if
Okay.
I was going to start, I would start out with the 2005 remake, the 2005 reboot, and then just watch the next 17 years of programming.
Well, I'm gonna try to do start Game of Thrones from the beginning this winter, so maybe I'll do that next year.
Winter is boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard.
All right. What is your next pick?
My next one I was kind of on the fence about putting on here because I know most people are probably not going to see it as a horror movie, but I remember when I watched it growing up, it was always scary to me. And Letterboxd has it listed as horror as one of their genres, so I'm going with it. It's 1986's Little Shop of Horrors.
Wonderful movie.
I'll let you have it, but again, much like Cronenberg's The Fly. Okay, yeah, the remake surpasses it, but my problem is it's an adaptation of the Broadway play, which was an adaptation of the movie. So normally I would not count this one.
I mean, I've got extras. I can
Yeah.
do this
Let's.
as like
You know what? This one it doesn't count. It doesn't count because it came
It's
from
too
another.
good. It's
It came
too
from.
good.
It came from another medium.
All right, I'm gonna
If,
cross it off.
before you mention your next one, though, I do just want to say I had never seen that movie until a couple of years ago, and our friend Steve, that's like one of, if not his favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel had been on a kick of wanting to watch musicals. Some of them I like, and some of them I don't. You know. And anyway, I had watched a few, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to throw this one on. I found a media book Blu-ray of it, a McKay's used, good price. That is such a great movie.
It is
The
a great.
songs are fantastic. It is just good. Lord,
Yeah.
that movie's fun. That was one that I was definitely like, what the hell was I doing sleeping on this for all these years?
Yeah, I saw that one in the theater, but again, I can't allow it, man. It's an
No,
adaptation.
no, it's all right. It's okay.
All right,
That's
so
okay. I just wanted to give it some love.
that's because
All
you were
right.
Seymour,
Who
So,
is
Brian.
Brian?
I am a dentist.
I'm a Bill Murray.
then you're just a masochist. All right. What is your real pick, Matt?
I will go with this might be my weakest one on the list, but I really liked it when I first saw it. It's 2010. It's Matt Reeves. Let Me In.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I don't know that I like it better than the original, but I remember, um, just good story. Uh, Go ahead.
There's one thing I like better about it than the original, and it's something they only alluded to in the original, was that her keeper guardian, the old guy, was
Hmm.
someone she turned when he was a kid, or
Okay.
and what was going to happen with the new kid was he was looking at his future.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like that aspect. I liked kind of the like, I thought it added like a creepy kind of aspect to it where it's like, the girl vampire she's in a kid's body, but she's like hundreds of years old, and you kind of see like a little, I don't know, I want to say like a romantic relationship budding between her and an actual child, and I felt like that added some creepiness to it.
No, I think she knew that the person she was with was becoming useless to her, and she
Hmm.
needed to find someone else to take care of her and do all the dumb things, and
Yeah.
much easier to convince another kid to do it than an
Hmm.
adult.
But yeah, I can't remember which one of the two that I liked the swimming pool scene better in. It might have been this one. Um, but yeah, just good movie. I remember the girl in it, Chloe Grace Moretz. I When she was acting as a kid, I always thought she was going to be like this, like the next big thing, and then she just kind of fell off. She was in like Carrie and Kick
Kick
Ass, and
ass.
then I don't know if she's been in anything since.
She's been in a few things, but I think she is.
Suspiria, wasn't she? Wasn't she
Yeah,
in the
she was in
remake of
Suspiria.
Suspiria?
Yeah, she was in
Oh,
Suspiria.
was she?
Very brief role as as one of the American students there. But no,
Okay.
yeah, I thought that was really good. I have not watched the TV series yet.
Me neither.
I don't know if I will. But no, that one was teetering on my list, but I just
I
couldn't
didn't know
get
there
it.
was a TV series.
It just started on. It's on Showtime.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. I don't think anyone was clamoring for that story to continue.
Yeah, I think they covered it all.
Yeah. All right. So my next pick, 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. While it can be considered sci-fi, I think it's also a horror film of how we can lose control just like that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
I
plus
agree.
the ending is so fucking frightening that when Donald Sutherland just turns and points to Brooke Adams and starts screaming.
Yeah.
Just a nihilistic ending. I have nothing more to say about it
Yep.
because
Yeah, I had that one too, as a backup.
all right, what is
I unfortunately don't love it as much as everyone else does. I really wanted to. I actually watched that one for the first time within the last like 2 years. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the film. I really did. But I guess maybe it was partially my fault because when I watched it, I had just had a conversation with one of my coworkers at the time who's a huge horror fanatic. And he was ramping that movie up so much for me. I was like, I have actually never watched it. I need to fix that. And I mean, the whole day I heard about how great this movie was. And again, I can see it. I think maybe I should have. I don't know if it was a timing thing or what. It just didn't stick with me. I could recognize that it was a good film, but it didn't blow me away. Um, just
Yeah,
to throw my 2 cents in there. That's
understandable.
all.
wow.
What?
You need
Well,
to
we're
re
here to
you need to re
discuss
you need to
films.
re you need to rewatch it.
Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I do.
The
Yeah.
other problem is this movie is weird. While it's a remake, it is also a sequel to the original.
Okay.
The character Kevin McCarthy plays, who when he comes out screaming and is hit by a car, he's playing the same
Mhm.
character he played in the original. So,
Nice.
yeah.
And by the way, just to mention, I'm not saying that to contradict you guys. I'm literally just doing it for conversation's sake. So don't take that the wrong way. I'm not.
I'm looking forward to dissecting your next pick, Brian.
Hey, it's not like Robert
That's
took one of your
exactly
picks
why I
off the
said
list.
that. No, doesn't count. Okay, let's see. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What, I'm dying to hear your next pick.
Okay, how many am I at? I've done
This is 4.
1, 2, 3. This is number 4. Okay. All right, fuck it. Let's go ahead and throw this one out here. It was the first one that I wrote down, and then the more that I thought about it, I was like, I don't know if the guys will accept this as a proper answer. So I went with John Carpenter's The Thing. Okay.
It's my
Now,
number one also.
okay, so the reason I was wondering if you guys would allow it is because it's not necessarily a remake of the original film. It is based on the novella that the original film was based on. So, you know, it kind of has this whole thing. I didn't know if you guys would, the thing. I didn't know if you guys would accept that or not.
Does the original take place in Antarctica? I've never seen the original.
This is another part that I wanted to bring up too. I have seen it when I was a very young Brian. I have done a lot of damage to my body since then, and I can't remember a fucking thing about it.
It does.
Okay.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. It's like I mean, it's like the same movie pretty much. Without the cool effects.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So the original
All right, so
the original was called The Thing from Another World.
Yep.
The whole reason I made a big deal of all that is John Carpenter has been quoted as saying that he was not directly influenced by that film. It was by the book that that film was based on, and that he didn't want to compete with the original film. He wanted to make his own thing.
According to Wikipedia, the original took place in Alaska. But if we follow Dawn of the Dead, 2004, did not take place at a mall in Pittsburgh. It took place at a mall in Wisconsin. You know what? Let's do it. I think it has to be considered.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, there's not this is one that certainly everyone has seen, and if they haven't, then please, for the love of God, stop this video after you like and subscribe and go watch John Carpenter's The Thing. It is fantastic. I find the movie to be truly terrifying. It's an isolated, snowy environment with some of the greatest practical effects that you will probably ever see in your entire life. Which, you know, speaking of that, just to kind of take a little side note for a second, did you guys watch the prequel with Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
I did not.
Okay. Matt, did you?
I did, yeah.
You know, I think it's a fine film, but here's the major issue with it, in my opinion, without spoiling the movie at all. It is just a prequel to it, and you know, whatever. It's okay. But they rely so heavily on CGI that, like, you just, I could not take it seriously. Yeah. Because it looks so fucking bad in comparison to the mastercraft that happened in the thing. Again, I could not strongly urge our audience enough. Watch that movie, or if you haven't seen it in a long time, rewatch it. I personally hold it up there within like the top 5 greatest horror films of all time. I think it is extremely important and that well done. So,
yeah. Did you know it was a prequel going into it?
No, they were kind of
no, I didn't actually.
They were saying it's a remake.
Yeah, same, and then. Yeah, I didn't realize it until the last shot, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not to piss everyone off, but.
Yep.
Then it just asks, from what I understand, because I haven't seen it, it just opens a lot more questions.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I personally think like when it really comes down to it, I think it's a pretty boring movie. I
The
just
original? No, the remake or the reboot.
the prequel. Dear
Yeah.
God, I'm sorry. Yeah, the prequel.
Or I'm sorry, the requel.
The requel.
Yeah.
There you go.
That again, I know nothing about it except for the enemies. Matt, what is your next pick?
Um, well, crossed off a bunch of duplicates here. I'll go with let me see what year this was. I'm gonna go with 2002's The Ring. Um, I saw this one before I saw the original. Didn't realize those ones even existed. And then actually went back and rewatched the originals after I had seen these. But I thought this was just like a really good, um, kind of like a new take. And I know it was just copying off of another movie, but I feel like this was kind of like right around when DVD was like kicking into overdrive and getting real popular. And I liked the idea of having like some old forbidden VHS tape that can that can like curse you if you watch it. But it is like I've talked about it on this channel before. I feel like that first decade of the 2000s has really terrible special effects. And I feel like this suffers from it a little, but um, I think the part where the girl like comes out of the TV was very well done, very creepy. And I just like the whole like um yeah, if you watch it, you die, and you're just kind of like waiting for it.
I've never seen it.
Say what?
I love it, and man, I don't think you could have worded it any better than you just did. I think the only thing I would add is like, I do admit now, number one, I haven't watched it in a few years, but I think a lot of it might come down to when you seen it for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
because I was still at an age where I was, still toying with the idea, like that level of naivety where I was like, if I don't tell someone else, am I gonna like if I don't tell someone else
Yeah.
to watch this, am I gonna, I was, that young. Um, and you're talking about the CGI and stuff. I would have to rewatch it on that, but I feel like looking back on it, I feel like it was a pretty smart decision for them to do, like, because the videotapes and stuff are black and white, right? Like just
Yeah,
really grainy kind of images.
the videotape like itself is very creepy.
Mm.
And it's just kind of like, it has the scene of like the well, it has um like some creepy fly imagery. It's got
Yeah,
some
yeah.
lady just staring at a mirror combing her hair, and it's like it's really eerie, and it really adds to the movie. But um yeah, and then you watch it and you're like, oh god, are they coming after me next? But just
Yeah,
good movie.
Yeah,
yeah,
you
that
know what?
movie and The Grudge and all those, they kind of changed, like when America,
Mhm.
made their versions of them. It sort of changed the tone of things for a while,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, that we ran out of ideas and started remaking foreign horror
Yeah.
films.
Yep.
And I don't know why I didn't see it. I know Naomi Watts was in it. It was probably me being pretentious. Like she will not be as good in this movie as she was in Mulholland Drive. Fuck it.
Yeah. He was pretty good in it though.
All
Yeah.
right. So I made a rule that I would not include the remake of Suspiria and Dawn of the Dead because I talked about them ad nauseum before. So my next pick is 1979's remake of Nosferatu, directed by Werner Herzog and starring Klaus Kinski.
Good
Um,
one.
I did not see this movie until the late 90s for the first time, though I had the novelization of it when it came out because I was a fan of the silent film. And I mean, at a young age, they would show that on CBC Channel 9 out of Windsor all the time. And to me, that was the first time I saw a vampire film. And I was just horrified. By the time I saw 1931's Dracula, I'm like, how is this movie scary? It doesn't have the thin bald guy who looked like a rat. And Herzog, just when I finally saw him, like, holy fuck, this one's even scarier because it just builds and builds on the rat motif. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Klaus Kinski is a monster, and he can play a monster really well. And yeah, I'm just in awe that I was going to rewatch the Shout Factory edition that came out several years ago, but again, I got sucked in by Doctor Who today.
Nice.
But also, I love the ending of this one. It's just a great ending.
Mm-hmm.
With Renfield not well, I can't remember the character's name, but just sitting there with the rats.
I remember.
Well, I'll make it. Oh, go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I remember when I was a kid. It always bothered me that um they had like the fangs in the guy's mouth, and he was like very clearly like having trouble speaking with them in his mouth, and he'd always be like uh, 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 uh. And it always like kind of made me laugh a little. That's all.
Well,
All right.
all I was going to say is now that I'm in a safe space because you guys are my buddies, I've been telling Rachel since no seriously, like I have never watched a Nosferatu film, and I told her I was like should I pick up the Criterion, and then I knew Werner Herzog or Werner, I'm sorry, Werner Herzog. That was fun. Werner Herzog did one, and then isn't there like you guys can educate me on this clearly since I haven't seen any of those. I've seen some stuff circulating online. Did Willem Dafoe at some point play the character?
He played Shadow of the Vampire, which was a fictional story of the making of Nosferatu, where where the original director hired a vampire to play a vampire.
Is it a comedy or is it actually?
It's a horror comedy. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Someone just announced they are making a new version of the film. I want to say it's Ari Aster, but I don't think it is.
I think there's been stuff circulating for over 2 years now that Robert Eggers was going.
Yes, Robert Eggers, the guy who did The Witch. Yes. It finally got greenlit. He is going to be.
Oh, nice. Well, without having seen the films, I'm glad you mentioned that did get greenlit. So I'll go back and watch the others. But I do think it's fair to mention that if he continues to be as good at period pieces as he has shown as he is so far, then I couldn't think of a better person to tackle it.
What's interesting is they wanted to make Dracula, but they didn't get the rights to the book, so they basically just made Nosferatu, which is basically just Dracula. They just changed the main character's name. It for all intents and purposes, it is Dracula.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Nice.
All right. Brian, what is your final pick?
Well, I'm left with 3 here, and I don't know which one to. There's one that my heart is telling me to mention, but I also know deep down that I probably need to do a little bit of research on whether this one film is technically a remake or if they just so happen to come out within 1 year of each other. Does that make sense? One is Spanish and one is American. One came out in 2007, one came out in 2008. The film that I'm talking about is Quarantine, the remake of Rec, which is Rec is the Spanish film, Quarantine is the American film. Rec is one of my all-time favorite horror films of all time. Quarantine. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I didn't know they came out within a year of each other, but it's an American adaptation. But for all intents and purposes, it is a remake.
Okay, and a damn good one. Now, I will say that just because of little things that probably most people aren't really that concerned with, I think that Rec is better. I think that it's much darker, meaning with lighting and lack thereof. But when you talk about virtually a shot-for-shot remake, I have to give credit to Quarantine. It is scary as fuck, as is Rec. So yeah, I'll go ahead and throw that one out there. And just for shits and giggles, the last two that were on my list were the Amityville Horror remake from 2005. I threw that one on there as a possible honorable mention. And speaking of Friday the 13th remake from 2003, the same director, Marcus was it Nispel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I liked it. I liked it actually. Anyway, well, backtrack. Quarantine is my next choice. I think it's an extremely creepy film. Have you guys seen Wreck or Quarantine?
I've seen both. I prefer Wreck to Quarantine.
Yeah.
I've only seen Quarantine once, but they tried to explain it at the end, didn't they?
In Quarantine?
Yeah.
I would have to rewatch it. I do know that the okay, so I had seen Wreck originally. That was the first one I've seen. Then I seen Quarantine, and I was like, I do remember being like they fucked with something at the end. God, I can't answer that. I need to watch Quarantine again, and I actually feel bad saying that, putting it on the list, but it is literally just the ending because in Wreck, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but you're kind of going through a segment where we're supposed to start putting our pieces together.
I think our audience has seen Wreck already. You can.
Well, in case they haven't, but there's all sorts of literature that's on the wall that's kind of explaining stuff, but it's all Spanish, and there's no English subtitles that show up to show you what is on that. So I just kind of assume that what's at the end of Quarantine is kind of we hear it instead of
But they kind of go into greater detail in Wreck 2.
Okay. I haven't seen that one in a while. I like all the Wreck sequels. And I know that one's Wreck 2 is basically from the different perspective, right? It's from the team going in.
Yeah, but no, it's different characters. It's more of the same night.
Right, but from the perspective of this is shit. I need to rewatch it. Go ahead with what you were saying.
So Wreck 1 and Wreck 2.
I haven't seen it in a while. I don't need to talk about it.
Wreck 1 and Wreck 2 take place on the same night. Wreck 3, I believe, takes place concurrently to Wreck 1 and 2 on the same day. Because they talk about
Wreck 3 was on a boat, isn't it?
No, Wreck 4 is on a boat. Wreck 3 is the comedy that's at a wedding.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
And how the vet was bit by an animal who was brought in from that apartment complex, which they mentioned in the first one.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
All right, Matt, what is your final pick?
Final pick, Brian. I'm glad you brought up Safe Spaces because this is going to be an unpopular one. I'm going to go with it though.
Okay.
Going with this because this is my favorite horror series from the 80s and into the 90s, and I was really excited when it was getting a remake. And it's the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street.
Don't say Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm gonna come out and say it. Not a great movie. But there were some things in it that I really, really liked. I liked that we finally got like a actual origin story.
We got the origin story, the first episode of Freddy's Nightmares.
Did anybody watch that?
If you have the Friday the 13th set, it's on there.
I don't have it. I never saw it. I'm gonna pretend like I never saw it.
It doesn't matter. They did that story.
So I really liked that. I really like Jackie Earle Haley, and he's given like the impossible task of stepping in the Robert Englund's shoes, and I think he did a pretty good job personally.
He hasn't been seen since this movie.
Wasn't Watchmen after this?
Watchmen was before this.
Was it? Well, he needs to make a comeback.
Yeah, I think the last thing we saw him in was that basketball movie with Will Ferrell.
Basketball movie.
Semi-pro?
Semi-pro, yeah. Yeah, he played the fan who won the big check.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I know it's not a good movie, but I just, I don't know. It just I've always had kind of a spot for it. I don't know if it's because it's my favorite, like killer of the big three. I don't know if it's. I don't know.
My,
I,
my,
I
my, my,
obviously shouldn't be rooting for a pedophile here, but I just really like the movie.
That's the
my,
tagline for this
my, my,
video.
my, my review of this movie would be why. I mean,
Well,
again, the
Michael
rule,
Bay is the answer.
you don't remake Wes Craven.
Dude, I can't stop thinking about that. That was just in one of the special features of a Vinegar Syndrome movie we just talked about.
Someone said that?
Yeah, like one of the like producers or somebody in that they interviewed kept saying like, you don't you don't mess with or you don't remake Craven. Like it's gonna bother me all night. I'm not gonna get any sleep.
Well, well,
So,
what, well, one thing real quick. So I haven't watched the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Bay was attached to it.
So yeah, this was something I was going to bring up in our next video, but it's or our next talk, but it's
okay,
like this.
let's hold off on it
Yeah,
then.
yeah. I'll wait.
All right.
Okay,
All right. So,
you
so
know why I'm asking, of
yeah.
course.
So my next pick is also polarizing, but
Don't say Candyman.
no, I haven't seen the remake. It is 1990s directorial debut of Tom Savini, Night of the Living Dead. Much
No,
like
that's a good one.
Psycho, nearly a shot-for-shot remake until you get to the end, where the heroine basically tells the cops to shoot the abusive husband and by saying he's a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with that. I dig this remake. I dig it quite a bit.
Pretty close to Candyman. Doesn't he play the role in it? The guy that played Candyman?
Tony Thomas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
believe
he
so.
play he plays one of the main roles.
Yeah, he. God, I was gonna rewatch it today again, but Doctor Who.
Who?
Who? Indeed.
Robert, there's an owl outside your window. It's a good one. You can feel free to use that if you need.
Oh yeah, Tony Todd was in it. So was.
Yeah, he played Ben, I think.
Yep.
He just played the same character.
Yep, and Tom Towles played Henry Cooper, and he died in April 2015. Nearly
Bring the
2
party
years
down.
ago. But no, I mean, I really enjoyed this remake. I think Night of the Living Dead is an okay movie, but compared to Dawn, Day, Land, Diary,
City.
that wasn't Romero. I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, it wasn't.
I like them up to Diary. Survival of the Dead was not that good, but yeah. But I mean, Dawn. If there was no night, there'd be no Dawn, and there'd be no Return of the Living Dead either. But I like this movie. It was a decent enough remake that still had a twist at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about what we were going to talk about. 2009's Friday the 13th, which weirdly enough was on a lot of lists of best remakes.
I saw that.
And I'm like, did you guys see
okay.
the same movie?
Wow. Whose lists were these? Are these like, like anyone of merit?
Like BuzzFeed.
You know what I mean? Like any. Okay, BuzzFeed. Okay, yeah, never mind.
All right. So
It was on Michael Bay's list.
Probably.
I did good.
I don't think Michael Bay had much to do with these movies, except that he brought them. Well, they're already at Warner Brothers. I think his. Well, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know what
was
his influence
it
was
was
on
his production company. So he grabbed onto this, um, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and those are all his within like a few years apart. And it's just like, damn, Michael Bay, like you were making like decent movies, and then you're just like, I really want to see these get made real shittily, except for Nightmare on Elm Street.
And Texas Chainsaw, I like Texas
That one was
Chainsaw.
good.
I never watched.
Okay, well, let's say this in comparison to Friday the 13th, they're both goddamn Oscar winners.
So, so let's do a little bit of recap. This movie starts out in 1980, where a brave counselor basically beheads Pamela Jason's mom,
Mm-hmm.
who we didn't get enough of a good look with her to know if she had it going on. Boom, that's called a callback from last week. But and then she turns to her son in the woods that everyone thought drowned. And basically she said, "Kill for me, Jason, kill for me."
Mm-hmm.
Prelude number 1. Then we go into prelude number 2, where a bunch of people have come up to where the former Camp Crystal Lake was to look for weed. There we have Ben Feldman from Superstore and Silicon Valley basically ripping off David Lynch, where he was saying, "Fuck Heineken, Pabst Blue Ribbon," proceeds to fuck his girlfriend while his buddy goes off to take a whiz and the other two people go off doing whatever. His friend finds the weed, starts thinking about stealing the weed, and is killed by the meanest weed farmer of them all, Jason fucking Voorhees, who then goes on to kill everybody except for the woman who he thinks looks like his mom. By this point, we are 25 minutes into the minutes into the movie. And then we have a bunch of douchebags at a convenience store. One of them played by the guy who played the bad guy in the Justin Long comedy Accepted. The girl who plays the girl who plays Killer Frost on The Flash, and Jared Padalecki from Gilmore Girls and Supernatural, looking for his sister, who was the girl who was one of the girls in Prelude number 2. You then have him going around town, running into the sheriff, who basically tells him to get out of town. A lot of people who live in the town say, "Oh, don't, if she's missing, she's gone forever." They all seem to know that Jason is fucking out there and aren't doing anything. He goes to their place. He ends up at the rich kid's house. They go looking for Jason and his sister, which leads Jason there, and Jason kills everybody. They get into a final battle with Jason. Oh, I'm sorry. We see some gratuitous nudity where the girl's rich boyfriend fucks a girl with perfect tits and proceeds to tell us that she had perfect tits. They all die.
They were splendid, actually.
They were splendid. The best character of them all, Chewie, dies a very unnecessary death. Then they beat Jason, throw him into the water, throw the locket there. It would have been a twist if Jason didn't pop out of the water, but he popped out. I just told you the movie in a minute and a half, if that.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. We'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah. I was about to say, even hearing the recap in a minute and a half, I still felt like we could have shaved off 30 seconds.
All right, I have to ask this. The ending scene of the killer cut showed a bed with Jason's name on it. Was that in the house, in the rich house?
in the rich guy's house. I thought it was in the old dilapidated
Oh,
shack.
Yeah.
So you mean the end, like of the very, very end scene?
They focused on the bed that said Jason on it. I had no idea where it was because I stopped paying attention by that point.
There was a part in the movie, but it wasn't the end of the movie where it showed a bed. I did not watch the killer cut, so there may have been a part where
Where did you
Jason took his bed.
where did you watch it at?
I just watched it on HBO.
Okay. Because Brian and I were talking before the show, we both watched it from the box set, and instead it had both versions on it.
Mm-hmm.
It only has the killer cut.
Oh, really?
Which is about 10 minutes longer.
So yeah, that might be something different then, because that's on the version I watched. The very end scene is just him popping out of the water, and then it's over.
God, thank God they did not make any sequels to this one.
So you're saying after that? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say. So you're saying after he jumps out, after he jumps out of the water, it goes back and shows it focuses on his bed.
Yeah, it's just a bed that says Jason on it.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. I didn't want to rewind it because I didn't want to spend any more time with the movie than I had to. Like,
you've got me so curious on this now.
Yeah. Because there is a part when there's a part when the guy from Supernatural and the rich guy's girlfriend go to Jason's original cabin that's all beat up, and his bed is in there, and it focuses on his name and the bed in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads me to believe he took the bed into the new rich guy's house for his new spot, his bachelor pad.
I mean, it may be because now that Robert's mentioning it, the when that bed is shown the second time, I mean, it's definitely in a day lit shot, right? Because it's crystal clear. If I remember correctly, it's like a daytime and sun shining through the windows. Maybe I just didn't think about it because I was so fucking ready to kill myself.
So this movie, it tried to be everything to everybody. It basically, if we were going to say it took elements of 1, 2, and 3. Kind of like Shogun Assassin, which took 2 of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies. Basically a short part from the first one, basically saying the fact that for some reason Jason's mom was on a killer rampage, tells Jason to kill for her. Wouldn't they have found Jason, just a little kid, just wandering around the woods and the cabins at those points?
Well, he had those underground little tunnels.
True. Yeah.
All of a sudden, just in this one.
I'm
this
sorry.
This is where Rambo Last Blood got its influence for the ending.
This movie was so fucking bad.
It's a product of its time. I think anyone who watches horror movies from that time period knows exactly what we mean by that. I was telling Robert before we hopped on here, Matt, I went into this one, I really wanted to give it a fresh new perspective because I honestly didn't remember a damn thing about it.
Yeah.
I was like, who knows? I was like, it might actually be pretty good. I didn't really start having fun with it until the kills started happening. Now, I will say, I do think, although predictable as far as timing wise, you could smell a kill coming a mile away.
Yeah.
But I do think the kills were pretty cool. Definitely pretty bloody and entertaining, I would say. But there just wasn't any jarring moment. Nothing scared me because, again, everything down from the score to just the same techniques used throughout the entire film with your shots and everything. You could just tell, you're like, okay, well, this is going to happen now. I wanted to like it. I really did, and I was having fun with it up until a certain point, and then it just became so fucking stupid to me that I was like, I'm going to finish it, but God, I'm not liking it. You know?
Yeah.
It lost me with Jason growing weed.
Wait, you thought he was? You think he was the one that was growing it? Like he looked. I didn't even think about
Yeah,
this.
I'm gonna say that I was not.
Only a weed farmer would kill those coming after his crop.
I could see like the marketing of this should have been way different. A humble weed grower with a rough upbringing.
Okay, so that kind of ties into my next question. I don't remember much about Jason's like character in all the other ones, but would we say that this is like the most intelligent Jason has been? Because he's got like the whole like compound. He's got like everything lit up on a big old switch. Um, he doesn't have his teleporting powers yet.
He's learned how to do some adulting. Yeah. When you
Yeah.
said teleporting, I was going to say, I kept looking at it as the most supernatural that we've seen him. I mean, that motherfucker was able to get around. He was
Yeah.
running fast as shit.
Also,
There was one scene I sent you guys this. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. Just to prove that he was the weed guy, he killed the yokel who was licking the issue of Hustler magazine, who also stole his weed.
I was gonna say there was one scene in particular that screenshot that I sent you guys, and Matt, you in particular, you're like, wait, what happened? There is a scene where one of our actors goes outside to check on another character, if I remember correctly. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but she goes outside of this, the place where all these kids are partying, and she sees Jason. And if I remember correctly, like she gets back inside, and like we're talking about a matter of, I don't know, I'll be generous and say 10 seconds, but like she's inside looking through a fucking window upstairs, and he's on the roof.
Yeah.
Like, what did he do? Did he just fucking fly up there? Like, what is he doing? And they were so proud of that scare that they even tried to do it again later. You remember whenever the one douchebag's body fell onto the windshield of the car when they're trying to make their escape, and they look up and it's just that eagle or whatever. It's like, you seriously thought like we were gonna get? I don't know. I was just like, you're fucking stupid. This is stupid.
So,
he's gonna be up there. No, he's not. Where is he at?
I've got another question I want to ask you guys, but I want to just start to read this. I just found this. It's really long, so I'm just going to read the beginning. I don't know if this has been brought up before, but I believe the Jason in the remake is a weed farmer. The weed that the weed.
Did Robert write this?
No.
The weed that Wade and Richie are planning to steal at the beginning of the film is Jason Voorhees' weed. They bring their friends with them, but don't tell them about the heist they are planning. So now there is a group of 5. Anyways, Wade is the first to go as soon as he finds the weed. So now Jason either thinks that A, the whole reason that the group is there is to steal his weed, or B, he has to kill them all and hide the evidence to keep his field secret. Either way, everyone dies. And it's like a full page after that, but this is the Friday the 13th Reddit. So it's got to be true.
This was my review of it on the old Letterbox. So follow me at Robert2339 on Letterbox. Let's see, diary. I gave it new horror rule. Don't steal Jason's weed. This overly ambitious reboot tries to stuff a story into the cinematic blight. And that was my other problem that I was going to bring up. While there was, in all the other Friday the 13th movies, there was a basic story. This one tried to have too much of a story.
Mm-hmm.
Which made me hate it even more. I mean, think about it. The original one hey, there was a murder here 30 years ago. We're reopening the camp. Boom. Murders start happening again. That is the story. Part 2. Oh shit, Jason actually exists and he killed the girl from the first movie. Oh shit, they're reopening the camp again. People die. Which was also the plot for 3. They're reopening the camp again. This one had nothing to do with the camp. It took everything that made the original franchise good. I mean, all right, let me rephrase it. It had a bunch of dumb teenagers going out there to party, have sex, and be stupid. But none of the rich kids or the guy from Supernatural, you know, especially the rich kids, they were the innocent victims in this. That they were just hanging out at the dad's mansion, having fun, having a good time, getting fucked up.
I mean, I could see trying to reboot something like so big. I could see that being a difficult task. Now that we've seen someone attempt it,
there is no difficult task. What makes a good remake is you keep it as close to the original as possible and add a few twists along the way.
well, I guess there's numerous ways you can look at it. Like, one of the biggest things I fault this film for is that intro. It's like, because what it's doing is it's giving an explanation, but such a vague one that if someone had never seen Friday the 13th before, they wouldn't give a fuck because there's no character development. It's just this crazy lady and an obvious, like, I don't know, flashback sort of a scene screaming about her little boy. There's absolutely, I just thought it was a completely pointless direction to take the film. It's like, if you're going to remake this to the extent that they did, where if Jason's growing weed, let's even go with that. If you're going to think of it like that outside the box, then why even include the backstory of Jason to begin? Like, invent something else, create something else, or just start off with like people at a campground and then, you know, have just redo the ending of the film. I just thought it was a weird choice to throw in.
You could have started the movie with the guy looking for his sister meeting up with the rich kids. Everything else could have been told in dialogue. And the only reason why they had all those in there was to have more kills and more nudity.
Well, the kills at least were the only thing that saved this one. Well, it didn't even save it, but it was the only enjoyable part of it to me.
Yeah, this might be my least favorite. Sorry, Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, this is way worse. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to prove that compared everything after Jason Takes Manhattan is shit. and I'm sure, much like Nightmare on Elm Street, they had visions of this restarting the franchise. Because while this was Friday the 13th Part 12, the next one would have been 13. And it could have been something special. What they should have done, because they finally got the Friday the 13th name back, was make this a continuation of the previous ones, minus Hell, X, and Freddy.
Yeah.
See, I personally, and this might be a little bit different than what you guys think, but like when Hell comes in, Jason Goes to Hell, that to me was like a breath of fresh air with that original franchise, because I was like, finally, they're not taking themselves seriously. It came across to me as intentionally schlocky and fun, but still throwing in like genuine horror moments.
So
just kind of intentionally being over the top and like, let's not focus so much on Jason being like this terrifying thing anymore. Let's just make a really fun, over the top horror.
So again, this was when the character of Jason Voorhees made the jump from Paramount to Warner Brothers. At that point, Sean Cunningham Productions only had the rights to Jason Voorhees. It did not have any of the other intellectual property of Friday the 13th, Camp Crystal Lake. So, for the first time ever, the character had to stand on its own. By the time this film came out, they had the rights to everything else, which means they did not have to reboot it. They could have continued the series as is, because by this time, Jason Voorhees became a supernatural creature. In fact, by part 6, when he was reborn and struck by lightning, any semblance of humanity he had was gone. At this point, Jason was something else.
No, I'll give you that. I'm sorry. I was just mainly as far as Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and all that good stuff. I just thought those were fun films personally.
Oh, they were, but they weren't Friday the 13th movies.
Right.
They were Jason movies that had no real connection. This would have been the way to bring back the connection to the original by continuing it along. I think that was also the problem with the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, was going restarting over. It didn't need to.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason that they did do that was because, I mean, there's no way they were going to be able to have anyone have, Robert Englund's like comedy. They're not going to be able to. I feel like they just had to redo it to make it kind of like a different tone of character.
Well, Nightmare on Elm Street's the easiest one because it takes place in dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So Freddy could be whatever people dream he is.
Yeah.
The problem is Freddy became a cartoon character along the way.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I love a lot of those films.
Now, again, the Texas Chainsaw remake, it was, 40 years after the original? And by that time, the franchise, which has never been consistent, was ripe for a remake, though it has been remade one too many times since then. And I think, basically, in this case, giving Jason an origin, because he wasn't supernatural in this one. He wasn't a kid who lived at the bottom of the lake. He was obviously still alive in the first part of it.
Right.
And even worse, again, the town knew he was out there.
I was going to ask something earlier, and this could go back to like not just this Jason, but all of them. But something I kind of always thought about. Do you guys think Jason is self-conscious about his face?
If he wasn't, he wouldn't wear a mask.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like he has to be to a certain degree because, with keeping in discussion of this remake, at least, I mean, he has all these keepsakes. There's like the whistles and stuff from the counselors that he killed, and all these little trinkets, and of course, the locket with his mom.
Hold on.
So there's got to be something.
Jason didn't kill the counselors. His mom did.
Well, okay, sure, sorry, but you know what I'm trying to get out there. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like he has to have. There's got to be some reason why he keeps all that stuff. Is all I was thinking.
Yeah, I always kind of felt that way. And then there was a part in this one where it's when he's in the like shed about to murder. What was his name? Like Chewy, and he knocks his like little rag mask off, and Jason like freaks out and like stops what he's doing and seems like, I'm this huge imposing creature, but I don't want you to see my face. And when I saw that scene, it kind of really made me like think like, wow, maybe he like is like super freaked out about his face. So he's at least like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like I took your question out of context. Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
All right. How many killer Jason weed would you give this movie, Brian?
I'll be generous with a 1 just because I did enjoy the kills. I mean, I honestly found myself even smiling through some of them. Like, okay, that's
actually
cool.
hold on. How many superior boobs would you give this one? Let's go with that one instead of Killer Jason Weed.
Well, then I'd have to bump it up to a 2 because there's 2 of them.
No. All right, Matt. How many superior boobs?
Oh, I was gonna say, what was your favorite kill?
Wow, that is a good one. Well, I really liked. I was a little let down with the ramp up to. We all, I think, wanted to see Jason rip through that wood chipper thing. My favorite kill. I don't know. I don't think I was invested enough to have one, even though I did like the kills. I don't know. Do you have one?
I have one, but it's a kind of a cheat one. But
What is it?
any time a bear trap is involved, it will always be my favorite kill because I think that
Ben
has
Feldman
to be like
kill. Yeah, that
it has to be the most horrifying thing to have happen to you.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, no. Before I go on
Cold
to
open
mine,
kills
yes,
count.
I 100%. Yeah, that one was cringy as fuck. But no, I'm glad you mentioned that because the sleeping bag over the fire, I thought was pretty fucking badass. I was like, all right, he's just gonna roast her to death in that thing. I thought that was pretty cool. What about you, Robert?
I'm gonna the bear trap one, Ben Feldman's death.
Okay.
I'm gonna give this half a superior boob.
Half. Okay. I'm gonna have the highest rating here, I think. I'm gonna go 1.5. And really the thing that I liked about it most, and it's kind of the thing that I liked most about the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, is I feel like this is the most like, I don't know, like physically imposing Jason. He's just seems like more of a giant. You know, they add those like huge footsteps in when he's walking around, makes him seem scarier. So I don't know. That was like the one aspect I liked about it. He seemed bigger.
Sure.
I don't know. Kane Hodder's a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. You know what? I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. And next week, I'm going to spring our movie on you guys because I've already decided it. Hopefully, you guys will agree. Because next week we'll be recording this on Devil's Night. I think we should talk about sequels and watch the original Halloween 2. If you're okay with that.
Brian looks not okay.
I just watched it.
Did you start crying?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Because to be honest, so let me explain why. Basically, it announced to the world that all these movies would become series, one after the other, and I think it's kind of important. Or we could talk about Friday the 13th Part 2. I'm cool with either one.
No, that's fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to discourage it. I'm going to hold my thoughts until next week.
All right.
There we go.
And I think we should also discuss our 5 favorite sequels of horror franchises.
No, that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what one movie you would like to see a sequel to that hasn't got one?
Okay.
All right.
Did you say 5 favorite
You know,
sequels?
let's do 3. Let's do 3.
Okay.
And one movie that doesn't have a sequel that we would like to see have a sequel to.
Okay.
All right. As always for Grindhouse Chic, my name is Robert Schneider and Matt Armstrong, Brian Baldwin. Please hit subscribe. Matt, how are we? Are we close to 500 subscribers yet?
Did you say 500?
100.
We're close to
50, right?
Let me see where we're sitting at. Live update here. We are close to 48, as in we're still at 47.
All right. We need to do a better job getting these episodes out. Matt. We will see you next week.
Coming
We
right at
discuss
ya.
Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.